I would consider my principal area of practice to be advocacy, which is really the focus of the firm that I work at, Lenczner Slaght. Within that context, I've done cases really across all areas. Over the years, organically, my practice has focused on commercial cases, employment cases, and medical cases. But I've done cases across the spectrum. So I've done personal injury cases, estates cases, criminal cases. And effectively, our goal at the firm is where we can to do trials, which is what we enjoy doing. So the focus of the practice is advocacy, and then within that context, my practice has grown organically, really through the context in which I've worked, to focus on those three principal areas. I chose litigation because in law school that was my conception principally of what a lawyer did. My father is a litigator in Ottawa, so I grew up talking about cases at the dinner table with him. I had studied political philosophy in university and enjoyed argument and debate. And litigation is an area where you can actually focus on normative problems, that is, not only what is, but what ought to be. And so, given that background, it's something I was drawn to. I value in my practice the chance to do cases, and by that I mean not only get into court, but to jump in and out of different areas in people's lives. The nature of the business is such that when you do a case, you develop a very close, intense relationship, not only with the people involved in that case, but with the area. And so if you practice in a broad array of areas, you jump in and out of different slices of life. So one day you'll be focused on an engineering defect in a building. The next day it'll be heart surgery. The next day it'll be the investment services industry. So I enjoy learning about new things and learning about new people. And so I always enjoy doing a new case. That's what really excites me. I've been very lucky at Lenczner Slaght to have wonderful mentors, work with Peter Griffin, Michael Royce, Tom Curry, people like that. To some degree, you become the lawyer that you are simply by learning from them and doing cases with them. Among the most valuable pieces of advice I've received is to simply focus upon doing cases, trying to achieve an excellent result for your client, and then letting the rest fall into place. So focusing first on excellent work as the #1 priority, and then worrying about money and the other issues as a secondary consideration. Well, in terms of pro bono work, there's two areas that I focus on. Firstly, I do some teaching, presentations, and writing. I have a bit of an academic background, so I enjoy writing and thinking about things. So in terms of pro bono work, I tend to act for employees who've been terminated from their positions or who require employment advice, who obviously could not afford to retain the firm. So we will take those cases on either for no fee or for a minimal fee. And to some degree, I simply enjoy helping people who are being pushed around, who wouldn't otherwise have the resources of a firm like Lenczner Slaght available to them. And then when we show up on that file, they tend to get somewhat more fair treatment. In terms of the challenges I've worked through, those would principally be the challenges for working at one of the busier litigation practices in the country. And so in the early years, there's a steep learning curve in the litigation context, particularly if you have a heavy caseload. And so when you're awash in cases in the early years, there can be difficulties with stress management and learning to make decisions and exercise judgment. So the first few years of practice, and by that I mean the first 5 years, are a challenge. After you get through that learning curve, things stabilize to some degree, but practice is always stressful. And so it's really learning to deal with the stress load of handling other people's problems continuously, being involved in constant conflict as part of the nature of the job, and balancing that with some degree of a home life. So those are the challenges that most lawyers deal with, but those would be the challenges I think that I've faced. In terms of identifying factors of my success, I guess the first would be blind luck. Secondly, I guess from my perspective, hard work and not having too high opinion of myself. I've really early on got a sense of what little I knew effectively and how much I had to learn. And so early on I sought out good mentors and had good mentorship at the firm, and have tried to learn from their example over the years. So beyond simply contingency in terms of how I've gotten where I've gotten, it's hard to articulate, but I'd say hard work and diligence.